West Ham versus Everton. It's one of those games. I mean, genuinely, I can't think of a match like this. I can't think of the last time there was a game where there's just so many bizarre circumstances at play. You've got the former Everton manager, David Moyes, who was at that club for many years, 11 years at the club, and took them to the Champions League and everything else. Is now at West Ham, who is a game away from the sack. It looks on the brink, really. You would imagine. I don't even know how he survives it. I don't know whether a win will be enough. I don't really know unless it's a very comprehensive one. And then you've got Frank Lampard, of course. A historic figure of West Ham, figure of hate, you'd say. Over the years of his connection with Chelsea and how he left the club and all these kind of things. And then he's exactly in the same position. You'd kind of look at it and think it's just a very odd circumstance. And then you've got both clubs, very similar size clubs that are in the same position, struggling, fighting relegation at the moment. It's really, really tough. So first of all, before we go into the game and talk anything about like previewing the match itself, I just want to talk about Everton, I suppose, firstly. I really feel for Everton fans. I really feel for what they're going through. The reason I say that is because I look at it and just think, God, just reminds me of West Ham. I know exactly how this feels, and it strikes a chord with you. You look at the way that they're being treated, the fans, by the owners. I don't know whether you've seen that. The previous match with Southampton when Everton put that statement out and said about that the fans. I'm sorry, that the owners, the directors of football, couldn't go to the game. They were told to stay away because of because of safety concerns from the fans, which I just think is ridiculous. I don't understand that. It almost feels a bit like propaganda. There's obviously lots of issues going on at the club, and it's almost like they're trying to point the finger at the fans. It just feels like a very familiar territory than what we've been down. We know what it's like to have owners like that. So I can only really sort of feel for them. I actually do understand how awful that is and the anger they're feeling. They seem to have a terrible approach to transfers. They don't really, very scattergun like West Ham. It's just really familiar. You look at it and just think, God, we know the pain of that. It's horrible. And I've got to say, I don't really see them surviving this season, Everton. I think they've been kind of, you look at the last few years, it just feels like this is probably a bit too much from now. They survived quite, they were lucky to survive last season. Well, maybe lucky is not the right word, but it was very tight. They were very close to going down. So you just get the feeling that they're going to really struggle. I don't think Lampard will be there much longer either now. I'm guessing it'll be after the West Ham game, if I'm being honest. That's my gut feeling. You've then got the connection of David Moyes and Everton, and not just because of the history, but because of the here and now. There's a lot of talk that Everton are quite interested in David Moyes, possibly. He might be the man that they might want to take over from Lampard because of the history there. He might be apparently he's still well liked at the football club. I think he's got connections still there. So that's the interesting link as well. So you kind of look at it and think, well, where is this one going? Is that going to happen? I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised. It's a really sad situation at Everton. And then you've got on the pitch then as well. I mean, they just look awful. They look really poor. Talking about Frank Lampard first, I'm surprised he's still there. I really am. I'm surprised he's there. He just comes across so inexperienced at this level for me. I always said at the time, and I stand by it, that his decision to leave Derby County for Chelsea was a real mistake for him. I think he still needed to earn his stripes. I think he needed a bit more time to grow and learn the role of being a manager. And I just think that he's taken on two big jobs here, really tough. Chelsea's ridiculously difficult. I mean, Graham Potter's struggling with it now, and he's a very talented manager, as we all know, and he's struggling there because the pressure, they have to win every match, effectively. Every game is a must-win game. You lose a couple of games and you're effectively out the door. And I think he felt that at Chelsea. And now he's at Everton, which is, dare I say, he's in a situation where really he needed a bit more experience because he looks out of his depth. When you see him in interviews, he just seems so under pressure. You can see it's really getting to him. I don't really see it going away for Lampard. I think he's going to leave that job at some stage. It's not going to be very long now. They need someone in a bit more experience to steer them out of this. But I actually get the impression, like you do with West Ham sometimes, it sometimes feels a bit like it doesn't matter who the manager is. If the owners aren't very good and they're not really backing the manager how they should be and the club isn't set up as how it should be, they're always going to struggle. Like, you could put the best manager in the world there, but if the infrastructure is just not there, it's so difficult. Yeah, so it's very interesting. So Lampard, I do think is struggling. You look at the players; it's a strange one, Everton, because you look at their team, and much like West Ham, you look at it on paper and you think we've got some really good players. I mean, Jordan Pickford, you've got England's #1 goalkeeper. You've got Connor Cody, I really rate. Tarkowski, who we wanted, a good player. You've got Onana in the midfield, who I mean, I look at him play and I think I wish he'd have come to West Ham. I know that he chose Everton over us. I don't know how he feels about that now. Probably, looks at both clubs thinking, God, what have I done? But overall, you look at their team. At Calvert-Lewin, I know he's really out of form at the moment. He just seems to go from injury to injury. But again, a very gifted footballer. When he's in form, he's very, very good. Anthony Gordon, don't forget he was touted as the big clubs are all after him 5 minutes ago. I think Chelsea were in for him, and for big numbers. And it just seems a very strange. I just think it just seems a lot of problems at Everton. Which then it's a weird game for West Ham, because I don't know about you, and I'm please share your comments on this and how you feel about the game tomorrow. But it's one I have not really looked forward to watching West Ham play for quite a while now. I can't remember the last time I genuinely was really looking forward to it, a match, and thinking, I'm really up for this. And don't get me wrong, I'm not feeling that way against Everton. But it's a weird one because I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'm really expecting us to win because of the state of Everton. I'm thinking, well, if we can't beat Everton, then we really deserve to be going down now, because Everton are in a real bad way. I mean, they had a terrible defeat against Southampton, which was I can't imagine how demoralising that was for them. I personally think it's down to a lot of their defeats are down to Lampard's naivety. He doesn't seem to respect the point. I hate to use that line from Sam Allardyce, but they don't. I think sometimes he desperately wants to get the 3. He goes gung-ho to get the winner. And sometimes you think, when you're down the bottom, you're struggling, just get the point. Build the foundations. We didn't lose. Come off the pitch. Don't throw everyone forward like a maniac, trying desperately to get a winner. I think it was Wolves. That cost them dearly. They I think they conceded very, very late on. I think it might be in injury time, and it cost them a point. It's just things like that with Lampard that make you think, you're showing your inexperience. I'm not to say West Ham are much better, but I'm certainly not saying that. But yeah, it's one of them games I'm looking at thinking, I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not expecting a great performance. I just got no expectations of any optimism, but I still believe we're going to win the game. I do believe West Ham will win it, but I think it's going to be very tight and very tough and horrible. I don't think it's going to be a beautiful affair. I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I'd love to see West Ham put in a good performance. David Moyes has to put in a good performance for this. I mean, I even get the feeling that even if we won, if it's a scrappy, awful win, I don't know if it'd be enough for Moyes to keep his job. I'm surprised he's still there at the moment. It's an interesting one. I just don't know. It's one of those unknown games, this one. It's very, very strange. A weird one to call. Onto West Ham then, you look at us at the moment. Injuries, not too bad. I mean, you've got Cornet. Yeah, that's obviously an ongoing thing. Skamaka is a problem, although Moyes did kind of allude to the fact that it doesn't seem too serious. We've been reporting on the West Ham way that there is a risk of it being around about a month that he's going to miss a few games. Now, whether Moyes knows that and that's what he means, it's only going to be a few games, it's going to be a month, I don't know. But he in his press conference, he kind of made it sound like it's very minor. I don't know. I haven't heard enough about it. X is going to be doing updates on this, so we'll just keep you posted with that and find out what's going on. So, but that aside, everyone's pretty much fit. And of course, Danny Ings will be in the squad. You would imagine starting. I can't see Antonio starting, especially after the recent comments. I don't know what's going on there. It looks as though Antonio's probably going out the door, especially the fact that we're in for Terem Moffi as well, as we've reported. It looks like we are really pushing that one. I think he's the #1 target at the moment. It's a case now trying to convince him to come to England. So my guess is that Ings will start. That's my gut feeling, that he probably will. Now, that in itself is a bit of a lift. I'm not, don't get me wrong, I don't believe this is, brilliant, that's all going to solve all our problems now. We've got Danny Ings, because let's be honest, finishing is not necessarily the problem. Even though Moyes keeps alluding to that, we're not scoring enough goals. If we got a goal scorer, it's all sorted. Well, you're thinking, well, it's the general play, David. It's not been very good. It's not like we're missing chance after chance every match. We don't have many. So I don't think it's going to solve anything. The only thing I do think it might do is just give everyone a little bit of a lift. A fresh face is always good. And let's be honest, it's not as if it's a fresh face that no one really knows. We all know Danny Ings. He's been at Liverpool. He's played for England. He's a prolific goal scorer, and he's a very, very good footballer. My only concern with him is the injury side of it. I just really, we've got to keep him fit, and fingers crossed he does. But I'm hoping that will give everyone a little bit of a boost, and including the players, not so much just the fans as well, but everyone just around the ground a bit of a boost. We of course have the David Gold tribute before the game. It's a strange one, this one, because I kind of look back and think of when we opened the stand for Billy Bonds. Now, of course, this is completely different. I do understand that. And if I remember rightly, I think we were playing Newcastle that day and we won. I think we won 2-0, if I remember rightly. But I'll have to look at that. I've just kind of got off the top of my head. But it lifted everyone that day. Everyone was in a really good... It just lifted the spirits. It was a bit of togetherness about it, you know. And maybe that's what we need tomorrow, a little bit of togetherness. Maybe the ceremony before the game will actually bring everyone together, the players, the fans, the management. And, you know, you've got Danny Ings as well. It might be sort of a little bit of a recipe for going into a match that is crucial, that we can get the job done, that we can actually overcome Everton. I genuinely believe that we will. That's my gut feeling. I've had it all week, but as I've said, it doesn't mean that I'm skipping towards London Stadium, you know, excited, because I'm certainly not. I'm not expecting a great showing. I just think it's going to be a tough game and a bit of a weird one. I can't imagine the atmosphere being overly brilliant either, especially if the game isn't great and the football isn't too wonderful. It's going to be probably quite nervy. A lot of people are talking about David Moyes' future. We put out a poll. I think it was soon after the what game was it that we put it out? It was the Brentford game. We put out two. We put out two games. Two polls, and basically, in a nutshell, that the consensus is now that the fan base want David Moyes out of the football club. They've had enough, and I think it was unbelievable. I think it was 92% voted that they want him out. I think 5% was something like, you know, on the fence and whatever. So it was very, very much in the favour that Moyes wants to go. Now, some people have been saying, well, wouldn't you rather see us lose to Everton? Would you sacrifice this game? This was brought up in the podcast with Dave and X. Even Dave alluded to it. Maybe for the greater good, you know. Do we lose this game? Do we sacrifice the match, lose to Everton, get rid of Moyes, and then we get a fresh new manager, and it might save our season? I do understand people's views of that. I do kind of get it, but I can't buy into it. The reason I can't, because I just can't not support my side. I'm looking at the league table thinking, you know, we're halfway through now. We've got 19 matches to go. We really need to win 8-9 of them. You know, really, that's realistically the position we're in now. We have to sort of get some really big wins. We have to get some wins. And Everton at home is just a must-win game, regardless of the manager, regardless of you know where your loyalty lies. We've got to win this game. As I said, I don't even think a win. I'm not sure a win would even be enough to keep Moyes. I'm not sure, because I'm not confident that West Ham are going to go and win emphatically. I can't see us beating Everton 4-0, putting in a brilliant performance. That would keep Moyes' job if that happened. I'm sure it would, because that would be a bizarre thing to do. I can't see that happening. I can imagine it being a bit of a scrappy win, if we do win, of course. So that's where I'm sitting at the moment with it. It's going to be a strange game. You know, you look at the formation, how he's going to set up. You imagine it'll be similar how he usually does. I think he's got to try and take the game to Everton in this one. He can't be starting with a back five. I'll be very, very surprised if he does. Everton look pretty toothless. So really, I can only imagine that this is going to be... It might be a case, this one, of maybe Everton can't afford to lose it, West Ham can't afford to lose, and it'll be like that kind of standoff. I don't know, but I'd be very disappointed if he lines up with a back five. We can't be defensive. We've got to take the game to Everton, especially when you've got Danny Ings on the pitch. We'll be desperate to start off with a goal. We want to start off on the front foot and give them a game. The midfield... You'd like to think Paqueta is going to be sitting alongside Rice. I really hope Souček's going to be dropped. He won't be. We know I'd be stunned if he is. I doubt he will be. It just feels like that Moyes is, whatever happens, whatever situation he's in, he doesn't change. He doesn't matter how critical the situation, how dire it is. He doesn't change. We've said it on here so many times. It just sticks to the same method all the time. Really interesting point. Before we sort of wrap this video up, I don't know if you've seen the Mikel Antonio comments. He did a podcast with the BBC. I think it was called the Footballers Football Podcast. And he basically called out David Moyes, I would say, you know, criticised his tactics and said that we're trying to change the philosophy, which David Moyes keeps alluding to. We've had to change this season. We've had to change. We've got to change. We've got to play like a top side. For a start, I'm actually starting to think, why are we bothering? Like, if you've got a system that works and been working quite well previously, why change it? Why are you so desperate to change? I don't quite get it. my opinion, because it doesn't and Antonio was right. I don't really like the fact he's come out publicly and said it, because it makes him look quite petty, I think, and looks like he's going to leave under a bit of a cloud, which is a bit of, if he does leave, of course. But that's sad. If he leaves under a cloud, which it seems to be going that way, you think for someone that's been here so many years, it's quite sad. But he's right. It's not working. And that kind of alludes to the fact that the players are like us fans. They're just getting fed up. It's like, this isn't working, David. The system isn't working. Whatever you're trying to do, it isn't working. Stop trying to do something that's not working. So, but we know David Moyes now. He had 6 weeks away before the World Cup. We talked about it enough to blue in the face here, but he's come back and nothing's changed. Nothing. It's the same. It's the same setup, the same system, the same. I mean, don't get me wrong. He does make tweaks here and there, but ultimately it's pretty similar. And so the lineups are always diabolical. I won't be surprised. I'm not even going into this game with any kind of thinking, oh, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to start Ben Rama, he's going to play Downs instead of Suchet. I don't think he will. I think it'll be the similar setup that we're used to. But having said that, I still hold in my gut that we are going to win this game. It's a massive game. Come on, you Irons, get the 3 points. Let's get the season up and running ish.